Here. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, both in person and virtually. So I'll give a brief history on this event. On July 5th, our park staff noticed that there was a small fish die-off in various parts of the lake where the public was recreating. These were mostly small bait fish, shad, minnows. As the time progressed over the next couple of days, we started seeing larger fish, bass, carp, crappie, catfish, trout, in larger numbers die off in various areas of the lake. It was at that time, after the initial shad die off, that we were working with California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board, Monterey County Water Resources Agency, and Environmental Health Bureau of the County of Monterey to determine what was causing this fish die off. At that time, out of an abundance of caution, we made the difficult decision to close the lake to visitors until we better understood this event. So, over the course of roughly a week and a half or so, some investigation was done, water testing and sampling was done, and the fish die off seemed to cease around July 12th. On July 10th is when we closed the lake. So unfortunately, the test data that came back and our investigations, it's we're not able to have a conclusive result of why the die-off occurred, but the prevailing thought is that based on satellite imagery, based on the fact that we did not have any other terrestrial or avian species die off that were ingesting the dead fish, that the thought is that an algae bloom occurred, that through the natural biological process of respiration during the nighttime, where the algae or cyanobacteria uses up oxygen, and then as it dies off during the decomposition process, it also uses up oxygen. So the thought is that the fish die-off was related to low dissolved oxygen concentrations in the water, essentially suffocating the fish. We did see other live fish swimming around when we were doing cleanup activities that are still ongoing. So we know that it didn't impact every single fish in the lake and that there are still fish in the lake. We can definitively say that this die-off was not attributed to any type of bacteria, toxin, or pollutant that could be harmful to human health. The park closure was necessary for this prolonged period of time to allow park staff to go through cleanup activities as well as get back sampling data from the testing that we did, and that the various agencies did. And as the fish were reaching the shoreline, they were decaying, and turkey vultures and pelicans and wild pigs and other creatures, raccoons, were eating the fish, which was helping us with the cleanup efforts. But there was still a good portion of cleanup that needed to be done with equipment and staff. We're anticipating reopening the lake this Wednesday, opening it back up to visitors and campers alike, so that they can come and enjoy the lake. We did not notice any harmful cyanobacteria or cyanotoxins at the levels that would impact public health when we did the testing. But satellite imagery, like I said, did show that there was an algae bloom that quickly receded shortly after the fish stopped dying. I do not have any other additional information at this time. If there's any questions, or well, wait till the end. I'd like to introduce Marnie Flagg from our Environmental Health Bureau.
Thank you, Brian. So I'm Marnie Flagg, and I'm the Assistant Bureau Chief for our Environmental Health Department. And environmental health participated in this incident by going to the lake and collecting water samples for analysis in our environmental health public health laboratory. And we ran water testing, and nearly all the results came back in the normal or the non-detect range. And this is important to note for public health, that it is safe for humans to go back into the water, and everyone can enjoy the lake and have a great time and go. And I want everyone to realize that the testing that we do is for recreational bodies of water. And so when people enter the water, they can realize that the water that they come in contact with is not necessarily 100% clean. There are fish and wildlife present. So if anything happens, you can contact your physician and go and seek medical attention. But environmental health ran a series of tests that included coliforms that came back in all normal ranges. So the beaches are safe. And manganese came back slightly elevated, which is to be expected for natural bodies of water, especially Lake San Antonio, which has a historic elevated level of manganese. We have all of the testing results available for anyone to reference. And as Brian said, there is no conclusive evidence for a definitive reason for the fish die off. So when the lake reopens, we just want everyone to know that it is safe for regular recreational activities. And if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to call environmental health, and we will answer any questions for anyone that they have. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Lopez. I'm a county supervisor. I represent the 3rd District, which includes the beautiful Lake San Antonio. I want to share with everybody first a little bit about this particular facility. A lot of folks know Nacimiento or San Antonio. There is a slight difference in the two. Lake Nacimiento has houses around it. It feels a little more private, but San Antonio is everybody's lake. When you approach that facility, it's rustic camping. It's what we know as that remembrance as a child of what it was like to go out to a beautiful open space and enjoy it with family. That is exactly what this facility is for community. It is a place for families to gather, whether they're celebrating Easter, 4th of July, or any of the myriad of events that come to South County. It is a central gathering point. And so today, I want to thank our county staff, specifically Brian Flores, our team from the health department, and our CAO, Sonia De La Rosa, and everyone down the line who took the right steps, not knowing what was happening at the lake, to close it for a temporary period was the right call. What we're coming to you with today is clear data. That what we've put out is a extremely large battery of testing that shows that this facility is ready to be reopened for the public. We've taken the time to do some cleanup, a little bit of prep to make it even better for community. But as we turn back on, know that this facility is ready to receive visitors. It is safe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all out at the lake. I know that the community has had a lot of questions about what exactly happened. At this point, what we can definitively say is that whatever caused it is over for now. And the beautiful thing moving forward is that we have this testing that is open to every single person who wants to access it online. Please research it yourself, look at it, and come out and join us at the lake. Have a good time with us, because at the end of the day, this facility is one of the few places where residents of Southern Monterey County can gather. It's one of the few public facilities that is a park with access to water to recreate, especially during periods of heat. We look forward to inviting everybody back this Wednesday as we reopen, and know that if you have any questions, we have answers. Please reach out. We're ready to take those questions as we move forward here. Most importantly, I just want to thank every single person who had a role in making sure that the transparency around this particular instance is out there for community. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we're free to take questions. I'm going to invite Maya Carroll up to help us sort through those. Maya?
So our staff is available for questions. If anyone has questions right now, and if we have media representatives on Facebook, you can put your questions there. Any questions for our staff?
So the financial impact at this time, I don't have the specific numbers on that, but well over $100,000 for when we have to, we had to cancel 2 weekends where we had full capacity at South Shore, and we're anticipating, because of the heat, thousands upon thousands of people at North Shore, and we were having, $80,000 to $100,000 weekends at Lake San Antonio. So while the revenue impact, stings a little bit, out of an abundance of caution, it's just what we had to do while we studied this event. But we're going to be back open Wednesday for this coming weekend, and we're sold out again in many cases in many of our campsites. So people want to come back to the lake, please do so. North Shore, you can camp all along the shoreline, right up at the water's edge. Miles and miles of shoreline to explore and to recreate and to camp in. And then if you're at South Shore with the RV hookups and the improved campsites, get your reservation in early through our online system or give our parks office a call. Last weekend, the resort did fill to capacity at both the main resort area and at the North Shore boat launch and parking area, which can accommodate about 100 to 150 vehicles with trailers. So yeah, it was a really busy weekend. We did see some San Antonio users go there. And then we also let San Antonio annual day pass holders use Nacimiento during this closure. So individuals that, had a day use or come in with their boat and have a lake sticker for their boat and also had the day use for their car, they were able to use Nacimiento, Lake Nacimiento, as long as they got there early. And so if you are going to be using Nacimiento, get there early as you can. We typically have lines of 10 to 30 cars in line waiting to get into the facility, and we filled up last weekend by 1:30.
So on that question, I just want to answer and say that yes, there was a financial impact to the first question, but what comes first is safety, right? And so having that answer is most important. One more chance to sing the praises of our parks department. So last year, which we do a fiscal year that ends the 1st of July or last day of June, we nearly doubled the financial income that we expected out of Lake San Antonio. So the team has done an incredible job of standing that facility up. So while the number of a few weekends might sting, I'm not worried about our trajectory. These lakes have been outperforming almost any other facility we have here at the county. And so I'm excited for the team to get it back open and show the community that we've got this facility we've put the right investments into this facility and it's ready for the public.
I'm going to read these questions that have come in online. We have a question about fish testing. Were any of the fish in the lake tested?
So California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the local biologist, as well as the fisheries biologist in Sacramento, fish sampling was taken. Unfortunately, the fish samples that were taken were too dead. The fish needed to be in a moribund state, meaning impacted but not dead yet. And so unfortunately, those samples were not able to be obtained. But based on the water sampling, it would not show that there was any impact to fish health from some other type, from anything that was in the testing that we did. So at this time, it's unknown why the fish died, a definitive reason, but it's mostly attributed to the dissolved oxygen.
The question is, what should some of the people be aware of who want to swim in the lake? And so swimming in the lake, it would be sunscreen. So you want to use sunscreen when you swim in the lake, and take a look for an algal bloom. If there's an algal bloom or a discoloration in the lake, you wouldn't want to enter. Take a look at your surroundings. If there's a lot of color, a haze on the top of the water, you don't want to enter. And if you did see dead fish, which you won't right now because there's not a die off right now, you wouldn't want to enter. But otherwise, the lake is clean and ready for you to swim in. Don't drink the water right now or ever, really, because it's not a drinkable source for you. And, but wear your sunscreen. And if you do have a large cut or laceration, you don't really ever want to enter a large body of water. So that's something to be cautious of as well. So those are some of the hazards of entering bodies of water.
Let me just follow up to that real quick. So the Parks Division does have cautionary signage up. We leave that up just as a precautionary measure for cyanobacteria, which is often referred to as blue-green algae, even though it's not an algae per se. It is a species of bacteria that has a blue-green tint to it. And if you do see any large floating mats of this cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, it mats up on the surface and kind of can be foamy and it's very unique looking. You will see it. Would definitely want to stay away from that. There's many different types of algae that are always present in natural bodies of water. A vast majority of them do not impact public health, but could, upset your stomach, things like that if you ingested too much water. So like Marnie said, you definitely don't want to ingest the water. But at this point in time, our test results are showing that there is no harmful bacteria or cyanobacteria in the lake to the levels that the public needs to be concerned about. Same rules for people and pets, especially pets. It's difficult to keep them out of the water on hot days or from lapping up the water or investigating dead fish and, crustaceans that might be on the shore. So, most definitely be aware of your surroundings. Keep an eye on your pets. If you do notice these algae mats or any type of floating algae, definitely keep your pets and children away from those areas.
Another question came in online regarding whether you can fish at the lake and eat the fish.
Yes, most definitely. You can fish at the lake and eat the fish. A number of our fish species that we have at the lakes are prized for the frying pan, namely the trout, catfish, crappie, very delicious fish. And so we encourage people to come out and recreate, and lots of people fish right off the shore. You don't need a boat. And so find yourself a nice little spot and cast a line.
This question is for Marnie. Did you detect any cyanobacterial presence in the air? Was there any air?
Environmental health does not do air testing around, so that test was not completed.
A question, will the lake need to be restocked?
Yes, frequently and often. I mean, that's just my response because I want to see as many fish in that lake as possible so we can get community out and enjoying them. I'll leave the real answer to Brian.
So the decision to restock or to stock a lake is with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They determine when a lake is able to be stocked and the amount, the species, etc. But I am hopeful that we can work with California Department of Fish and Wildlife to continue our trout stocking program as the water cools down in the fall or early winter. I'm hopeful that we'll get another trout plant.
Any last questions? Felix. Question is, were there any people reporting any symptoms during the algae bloom?
We did not have any reports coming in of any illnesses to our department. That would be a good question for us to follow up with you afterwards when we check our epidemiology department.
Parks did get 2 individuals who called and were just more curious about the situation. The family member presented some flu-like symptoms a week after being at the lake. And so we sent them information on how to report that with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife for the harmful algae bloom. website and directed them to that to get more information. So Felix from KSBW asked what is occurring in the next few days before the opening, and if the shorelines are still impacted. And thankfully, our biggest help during this whole event was the wildlife. I mean, this was a smorgasbord to them. So many did. There was white pelicans and seagulls and crows and ravens and wild pigs and raccoons, and everybody was enjoying the feast. And that helped us out, along with the high heat really desiccated the fish that were on the shoreline. And over the past week, park staff has been actively cleaning up the carcasses and making the area safe. And so they've been pressure washing the docks and the launch ramps and getting debris and remnants of this fish die-off cleaned up, and then also cleaning up any fish carcasses that were on the North Shore. And so cleanup is still continuing and will continue right up to the point where we reopen. We were also able to take care of some, maintenance issues that were difficult to do when the park is so busy, such as sewer and water line repairs and things like that. So there was an upside to the closure. It kind of gave us a chance to get caught up on some work that we were needing to do in order to make it a better experience for our guests.
Did the algae bloom coincide with the heat wave, and will you be closing in the future out of caution based on rises in water temperature?
Based on the satellite imagery that we received, there was a substantial amount of photosynthesis occurring, which shows that an algae bloom was present during the fish die-off event. That can be exacerbated by high heat. Cyanobacteria and algae enjoys warmer conditions. And so as those conditions warm, the algae growth is more rampant. At this time, we do not have the information to determine whether it was just a surface algae bloom or if it was at depth, but there was a substantial photosynthesis process taking place during the fish die-off, and which is normal for many, many bodies of water. Algae blooms occur quite frequently. A vast majority of the time, they are not harmful to humans, but we're keeping our eye on that, and we'll make the decisions as needed for public safety.
Question, can you give us a historical context? Has this ever happened before?
A fish die-off this large has never happened in the history of Lake San Antonio. There have been smaller fish die-offs in the past, mainly single species such as carp. There was a die-off back in the 90s during the Wildflower Festival, in fact. So individuals were swimming through the area where there was some carp floating, but nothing of this multi-species, large-scale fish die-off.
Any other questions for our staff?
Yeah, it was mainly the initial thought was that it was a dissolved oxygen concentration issue in the lake, causing the fish to suffocate. As it turned out, that is the best thought as to why this occurred. But then as we started doing some additional testing and getting the satellite imagery, it was linked to the algae bloom, which, like I stated, can be exacerbated by the high heat. But dissolved oxygen levels fluctuate throughout the day as aquatic life, aquatic vegetative life, such as algae and lake plants and things like that. During the day, they're going through photosynthesis, releasing oxygen and using carbon dioxide, dissolved carbon dioxide in the water. And then as night comes and there's no sunlight for that photosynthesis action to take place, they absorb oxygen just like any plant or tree in our world. And so as the nighttime temperatures didn't really go down that much and the lake waters remained at an elevated temperature, that growth of algae continued on throughout the night. And then as the algae dies off during that decomposition process, available oxygen in the water is also used up. So the fish get hit twice, basically. And that's where we saw the fish dying off, was during that time period of low dissolved oxygen concentrations in the water. We would hope not. But algae blooms occur. They're a natural biological occurrence. And we consistently have any body of water has algae blooms and different types of biological processes occurring that are impacted by heat. And so I can't definitively say if we will have this type of situation where the fish die off. Hopefully not. But it's impossible to say at this time. It's high temperatures drive algae and cyanobacteria growth. And so, lake biology changes on a daily basis. So at this time, it's impossible to say that. So that's one of the great things about our parks, is that they are kind of wild. And so there you do have a good chance of seeing bald eagles and wild pigs and mountain lions and bobcats and deer and all kinds of the creatures that live in our parks. The fish have, for the most part, the large amount of fish that we're drawing down the wildlife at night have been cleaned up. So we're not seeing that wildlife come down, such as the wild pigs, raccoons and things, to the shoreline as frequently, but they're always there. And most of the time they see you long before, or if you even do see them. So.
All right, to close us out, I once again want to thank all of our staff who, once again, I want to repeat this. We stand at the ready. If you see something, say something. We're prepared to respond. And it wasn't just county staff, it was State Department folks, CDFW, who've been there with us to make sure that this facility is ready to be reopened. So please come out and join us at the lakes. Know that the community out there is ready to receive you. The local businesses have been asking, when are we going to stand back up? They are ready to serve you, and we're excited to see you all back at Lake San Antonio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.